Where to begin? Well, I think that there are many different things that we have to do to help solve this problem. I think the first thing is what's happening right now. Uh, Getting people, it's going to sound silly, getting people interested in the topic. Being a white male, the age of 39, uh, in my peer group where I'm at, I'm in the military. There are tons of people that just don't believe that police brutality really even exists. They see the events unfolding in Ferguson and they're not following it. They're not on social media as much as I am following stuff like this. And they don't know all of the facts. They just know certain things. Every news outlet has a bias. And some of them aren't intentional and some of them are very intentional. But there will be a bias. So any person that wants to know what's really going on with any given situation, they need to be looking at everything they can that's being released. And I love the fact that, the media, the social media that we have, not the news media, is of a way that it's real time almost. Everybody with a smartphone, and they can capture what's going on real time and post it so it can be watched almost without bias. When you're capturing exactly what's going on and you're just posting that, you're seeing what happened, at least from that camera's vantage point. So that's a good thing, and that's something that needs to continue. Another thing that needs to happen is better training for these officers. When the military is giving all of this surplus stuff to police forces, are they being trained properly on how to use them? Do they even need the equipment? The thing that I've noticed is how easy it is, especially all of these photos and videos from Ferguson that are coming out, how closely it resembles anything that's going on or was going on in Iraq or Afghanistan. You could put two pictures up side by side and not know which photo was from which area, and it's disturbing to say the least. But in some of these specific instances, I'm in the military. You get taught deadly force triangle before you're allowed to use it: opportunity, intent, capability. Were all of those three sides met in some of these given circumstances? And no. When you carry a loaded weapon, it is your ultimate decision on whether or not you pull that weapon and you use it, and you're the one that needs to answer for it. But training, at least for me, we have training on deadly force and the use of force continuum. We have that training monthly or weekly, and it is drilled into our heads to know when I can use what. And we carry lots of things: pepper spray and asp. We're taught soft control, and it's a level of force. I can't just pull my weapon when somebody's screaming at me. It's an escalation of force, and when I know I need to pull my weapon and use it. I think that if proper training is had, and I'm not saying it's not, because again, it is that person's decision to pull that weapon. But I think it seems to me, at least, that proper training needs to be had on a more regular basis with some of these police forces. I mean, look at the events in New York City. 20 years they haven't been allowed to use a chokehold, and then they're using a chokehold. So that brings me to my next thing. There needs to be more openness and more of a quicker response when something was done wrong, and especially when it's cut and dry on video, there needs to be a quicker response from the police to take action against the officer or officers involved in something that was done incorrectly. Especially in Ferguson, it really shows, I want to use the word cover-up, but I'm not sure if that's the best word. But it shows that they're just not releasing information like they could have been if the situation was different, if it wasn't an officer-involved shooting. If it was just two civilians, and I'm sure the information would have been out right away. But because it was an officer and because they want to handle it more carefully, it takes forever for the information to get put out to the public. And that causes incidents like these riots to happen. Without all of those things in effect, even just the cameras being worn by cops, Mike Brown's law, which is a great law, I think there's no reason why officers shouldn't have a camera on them. We have dash cams. But even with just that, it's not enough. It's going to take all of those things that I listed before anybody really starts to see a change in how police corruption is handled, or police brutality. It's a sickening thing that we've let it get this far in society, and it's even more sickening that there are people that just don't even realize it goes on. And it's very disheartening, and something needs to be done. Even the president got on the bandwagon right away with the Trayvon Martin shooting. Yet, with what's happening in Ferguson, he's really taken a step back. Yes, he has pointed out, we can't let media be arrested, and people need to chill out, and I get that, but he seems to be distancing himself from this one, and I think the American public sees that. So, not just from the American people do we need people to notice and take action and want to take action, but it needs to be from our government as well. And I'm glad that he's going to take a look at the militarization of police, and if it's really necessary, because obviously it's not. So, that's what I think needs to happen, and that's what I hope happens. And if anything good comes out of this tragic and senseless death, I hope it's that. That we look at that militarization and we take a hard look at it and maybe start to take a few steps back from it, getting back to what police are really there for. Police are there for us. They're there to protect and serve us. And that brings me to my final thing, which I don't think I mentioned yet, which I want to mention, was the vetting of these officers and how other officers react when an officer does something that's wrong. The vetting process to be a police officer probably needs to be better than it is. And I understand it's a job not a lot of people want to do. So I understand that it will be difficult, and I don't want to say just throw more money at it. We'll pay them more. That'll solve that. I don't think so. But in addition to a better vetting process when these people are hired, it needs to be an atmosphere where other officers can say, hey, look, you just did something wrong. We need to talk about it, and I'm going to report it, without blowback, without feeling bad about doing it. It needs to be that type of environment, and I don't think it is right now. I think you're going to have officers, I think you do have officers that cover for other officers, and will be there in the situation, seeing an officer do something wrong, and instead of stopping it from happening at the time, they will continue with the situation and then maybe say something afterwards, which, and I say maybe because that's been the case. So there needs to be that atmosphere where they stop it right then and there and take care of the problem, and something is done to that officer that was improper in his response. So, just my thoughts. Peace.